So right here we have a component that returns some HTML code, then just an H1 tag. Very good. So in fact, this again looks like HTML, but it's JavaScript, it's JSX. So behind the scenes, React is kind of doing something else. I'm going to delete this, just delete it, and I'm going to call React. And React has a method that is going to be called createElement. And this createElement, of course, is going to create an element. So it's going to take a few arguments. The first one is going to be the which element we want to create. I'm going to open and close, and I'm going to say H1. Now, if I save it and go to the browser, of course, nothing is going to happen right here. But if I go to Elements, to the body, and right here inside the body, inside the root, we're going to have our element. So this create element is creating it and appending it to the body, to the root. Good. So again, this create element is going to take a few arguments. We can pass some options. So the second argument is going to be the options. So if we pass null, of course, we are not going to put any options. But what we can do, we can pass an object. And this object is going to take some arguments. Now, for example, let's say that I want to add a class to that H1. I'm going to be using a class and then name, just like this, class name. And this class name is going to be equal to the class. So if I save it and go to the browser, we're going to get H1 class of title. And something weird's going on. Notice that it's putting class, but here we are using class name. You're going to see why in a minute. Let me make this bigger. So, okay, the second thing is going to be the arguments that we are going to put as an attribute to that H1 tag. You can put whatever you want. Okay, so the third argument is what's going to be inside the element. So we were using hello world, so I'm going to say hello world. Now, if I go to the application, we get the hello world. So the third argument is going to be whatever we have inside the H1 tag. Now, what happens if I want to put a div? I want to add an element inside the contents of H1. Well, we cannot do this. We cannot just say something like this. If I do that, hello world, it's not going to work. So it's parsing everything and converting everything to text. So if we want to pass a real element, what we do, we just concatenate with the same method. I'm going to go right here and say React dot create element, and I'm going to create a div, just a div. Oh, sorry, div. And if we go right here, I go to the root. Oh, I made a mistake. It's not client React. It's going to be React. There we go. So if we reload it again, of course, we get nothing. But inside the H1 tag, we have a div. So we are concatenating the same method inside the same method. That's good. So of course, this is not a very fun way to create some HTML. That's why we use the other one. It's humanly readable. So I'm going to go back to the other one, hello React. But know that behind the scenes, React is kind of doing that React create element. So okay, let's keep moving forward. Okay, so now we need to talk about some gotchas that we have with this JSX. So right here, our component, it's just returning a single statement. So whenever we return a single thing, it's going to work. We do it like this and works. But what happens if I want to add a div that say, I don't know, whatever, hey, going to reload the application, and it's of course failed to compile. Whenever we return something inside of nothing, we need to pass only a single argument. So to fix this, I'm going to go right here, put everything inside this this parenthesis. Going to go right here and just paste it. Okay. Now, if I save it and reload the application, again, we have failed to compile. It's not going to work. So it's going to say adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. It's kind of confusing, but makes sense. Whenever we pass something inside return, whether we have it inside a parenthesis, we cannot do it like this. We need to pass only a single argument. So we're going to put everything inside an element. Just going to copy and put it inside a div tag. So now, instead of returning two different elements, we are returning one, and inside we have the children. So if I save this and go right here to the application, we get hello React and hey. So it's working. Remember that you need only you need one enclosing element, and then inside you can put whatever you want. You can have 1,000 divs right here. It doesn't matter. As long as you put them inside of a div, it's gonna work. So other thing that we need to talk about is that class name and class. So if I go right here and add a class to the element, it's gonna say new element, something like this. I'm gonna save it, and of course it's gonna work, but it's gonna give you an error message. It says invalid DOM property class. Did you mean class name? Well, again, all the error messages inside React are pretty clear. So class, this keyword, this class, remember that we are using JavaScript right here. This code is JavaScript, not HTML. So this class is a reserved word. We're going to be talking more about classes in the next few lectures, but we cannot use class. That's why we use class name. So class name is going to be equal to class. So whenever this JSX gets compiled by React, it's going to be converted to class. So if I reload the page and go to elements, we get the class inside the new element right here. And of course, we are not getting an error message. So everything works. I know that this is kind of a pain in the butt because now we need to change class to class name. We are not going to use class inside JSX. So again, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but you're going to get used to it. Don't worry. Okay, let's go to the next section.